Jesus said to the 12, "See, I am sending you out like sheep in the midst of the wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Beware of them, for they will hand you over to councils and flog you in their synagogues, and you'll be dragged before governors and kings because of me, as a testimony to them and the Gentiles. When they hand you over, do not worry about how you are to speak or what you are to say. What you are to say will be given to you at that time. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child, and children will rise against parents and have them put to death. And you will be hated by all because of my name. But the one who endures to the end will be saved." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Pretty much have a visual aid every week, don't I? God bless you. And so I just arrived. I blessed a barge this afternoon. Have you ever been to a barge blessing or christening up there? It's pretty awesome. We blessed the barge. It's christened with champagne, and then they let it go off this kind of dry dock right into the Willamette River. And it's just this big splash, and it's really fun, especially like if you're a little kid like me. But so they had bagpipers there and the drums, 20 strong. It was beautiful. And after the blessing of the barge, we were heading out. I was heading out with the bagpipers, and it was just powerful and strong. And it was like, man, I just envisioned us all coming into heaven, into those gates, and how awesome that was. So I just want to share that with you because that's the hope that lays before us. And hope does not disappoint, Romans 5:5. And so we celebrate that. But that has nothing to do with my homily. And neither does the next thing that I'm going to say. But Wednesday night, pretty much every Wednesday night, I'm teaching RCIA. So I don't, play video games all week long. I do some teaching. And Wednesday night, I teach RCIA for those who are becoming Catholic. But I bogged out. I kind of played hooky this Wednesday night because someone invited me to go to the Portland Trailblazer basketball game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Probably, and the best player, I think the best player, that's my opinion, in the world. And LeBron James. So it was fun. And the person I went with, he knew Maurice Lucas. And if you're an old Blazer fan, you know Maurice Lucas. You know Luke. And Luke was the enforcer on the court. And so he wanted to go see him. So we ended up going to see Lucas at halftime. And here we are. We're at the Blazer bench, And Lucas is standing there. So I'm standing there, and the guy's kind of talking to Lucas, and I'm just kind of looking around. And then all of a sudden, Brandon Roy's right there sitting right next to me, and Mark Salters is right there, and I go, what am I doing in the middle of this? It's pretty cool. I didn't get their autograph or anything. I don't care about autograph, whatever. But that was pretty cool, because I do love basketball, and that was fun. And then after the game, we're stepping back to the car, kind of in the lower level. Here comes Martell Webster, and he hasn't been playing because he's been hurt. And I go, Martell, what's up, man? And like we're high-fiving, I'm like, hey, when are we going to get you back? He said, well, probably after All-Star break. So I thought that was pretty cool. He was nice. And so that has nothing to do with anything other than that's pretty cool. So, as we celebrate this weekend, I'm going to come back to our homily last weekend. And we talked about G squared. What's G squared again? What? Glorify God. Okay, G squared is glorify God. And that's the whole purpose of our lives. That's what we're about. That's why we're existent. That's why we get up in the morning. That's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. When we do what we do, what we do, why we do everything is to glorify God and glorify the wonder of His power. So I was preaching on this last weekend between 8:30 and 10:30. Some beloved parishioners, they ran over to Fred Myers and they came back with this, G squared. Let's just drink down that how wonderful and incredible that is. I shared with you a couple weekends ago, difficult weekend in some senses. I was speaking in part on celebrating the funeral of Patrick. Patrick was 38 years old, and Patrick died of a drug overdose of heroin on New Year's Eve. And Patrick had a difficult life. Life was just kind of too big for him. The world was, he was a philosopher, he was a good man, gave a lot to a lot of people, but he also struggled with addiction. Because the world was too big for him. You know how the world, the pressures and the suffering can just come upon us. So it was very, very difficult for him. So what I felt called to share at the funeral was our need. We need to gather. And not just to gather to be in the same space, and not just to gather to watch a sporting event together, even though that's okay. And not just to gather even for a meal together, because that doesn't do the job, but to gather together in God. And so we come here to gather together in God, because we need God. We need His salvation, and we need conversion to come into that salvation more and more in our life. It's a process. And so we do that. So I shared this at the funeral, and then one of the readers at the funeral lived next door to us, and was a friend of Patrick who died. And there was a reception after the funeral, and then the reception obviously continued, and there was a party next door to the rectory. And so the party began. And it was 10 o'clock. I mean, it started earlier, but I was up at 10 o'clock, and 11 o'clock, and 12 o'clock, and 1 o'clock, and 2 o'clock, and 3 o'clock, and 4 o'clock, basically all night long. And I just prayed a lot for them. And it was very oxymoronic to me that I had talked that day in Mass about how we do need to gather, but not around a beer keg or something less than God. We need to gather around God, especially at that time. And I thought, do we listen? Do we hear? And are they in any way, shape, or form going to be better in the morning than they were the night before?